So, I want you to think about the most socially capable person you know. Like the kind of person who can walk into a crowded room and just effortlessly strike up a fascinating conversation with, say, an 80-year-old.
Right, yeah.
And then they just turn around and patiently help a crying 5-year-old and then, you know, confidently negotiate a complex deal with their boss later that day.
Oh, the ultimate social chameleon. I mean, we all know someone like that, right? And it's always so impressive to watch them navigate a room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really is. Now, ask yourself, how did they actually learn to do that?
Right.
Did they learn that level of social mastery by sitting in a room with 30 other people who were born in the exact same 12-month window as them for 6 hours a day?
Well, when you frame it like that, it sounds more like a recipe for groupthink than, a masterclass in social dynamics.
Right. And yet, trapping 30 kids the exact same age in a room for 6 hours a day is what society pretty much considers the gold standard for socialization.
It really is the default assumption.
It is. So today, we're jumping into a deep dive on a curriculum that completely dismantles the single biggest objection to homeschooling.
Yeah, we've got some fascinating source material today.
We do. It's an internal lesson script from a homeschooling course called Empowered Homefront. Specifically, we're looking at Module 5, which is taught by an instructor named Lori, and it's titled Socialization and the Self-Sufficient Adult.
And our mission for this deep dive is to unpack that unavoidable question, the one every single homeschooling parent inevitably gets asked, which is, but what about socialization?
The classic question.
Right. We're going to explore how this curriculum attempts to completely redefine what social competence actually means, like moving far beyond that traditional classroom model.
And I want to say right up front to you listening, even if you don't have kids or if like homeschooling is the furthest thing from your mind, you are really going to want to stick around for this.
Oh, absolutely.
Because this discussion is going to challenge your fundamental assumptions about how human beings actually learn to interact with the world. It kind of forces you to look at these artificial environments we just blindly accept as normal and ask if they're, well, actually serving us.
Yeah, and the source material begins not with, defensive statistics, but by examining the psychology of the question itself.
Which is so smart.
It really is. It looks at why this specific objection holds so much power over parents who are otherwise incredibly confident in their educational choices.
Yeah, because Instructor Lori points out something crucial in the text. The people asking, what about socialization? They usually aren't, internet trolls trying to be difficult.
Right, they're not strangers.
Exactly. They are spouses, grandparents, neighbors, coworkers. They're people who genuinely love the kids and want the best for them.
Which is precisely what makes the question so incredibly difficult to brush off. Because, a stranger critiquing your life choices, that's easy to ignore. But when the critique comes from a place of love and genuine concern from someone you care about,
it pierces the armor.
Yes. It gets right through. The curriculum warns parents that if they don't have a clean, ready answer to that question, the person asking hears a hesitation that was never intended.
Right, and the text says this amazing thing. Other people's doubt has a way of becoming your own.
That's such a powerful line.
It really is. It operates almost like a parental imposter syndrome. Like you've done the reading, you've looked at the curriculum, you've checked all the legal boxes.
They're fully prepared.
Right. But because you absorb someone else's unverified anxiety,
right,
you start second-guessing your own meticulous research.
Yeah.
It functions like a secondhand stress.
Secondhand stress. Yeah, I like that. And the text details exactly what this contagion of doubt looks like in practice. It manifests in two distinct behaviors.
Okay, let's get into those.
So the first is paralysis. Parents just keep pushing back their start dates. They decide they need, one more month to figure out the perfect answer to the socialization question before they feel ready to defend their choice to their extended family.
Right, they get stuck in the planning phase.
Exactly. And before they know it, another traditional school year has started, and they've completely missed their window.
Wow. And the second behavior, which I think is almost sadder, honestly, describes the parents who are already homeschooling, and their kids are actually thriving.
But they're still worried.
Yes.
Yeah.
They remain haunted by this phantom objection. The text describes how they go to community events or sports leagues or co-ops, and instead of just enjoying watching their child play,
they're stressing.
they use the event as a measuring stick.
Right. They're quietly scanning the room, thinking, is my child connecting? Are they acting normal? Do they seem weird?
Exactly.
They basically stop observing their child authentically and start watching them through the critical, imagined eyes of the people who question them in the first place.
It's so unfair to the kid, really.
It is. The anxiety isn't even about their child's actual social health anymore. It is entirely about what other people think.
And if you're listening to this, you've probably experienced some version of this in your own life, right? Like making a non-traditional choice, whether it's about your career, your lifestyle, or your family,
Oh, for sure.
and finding yourself constantly scanning the room to make sure you don't look like you're failing, just to appease the skeptics in your life.
Yeah, that measuring stick anxiety is so relatable. But the source material makes a point that this anxiety doesn't just come from judgmental neighbors.
Right.
In the text, instructor Lori reveals that the deepest skepticism she faced actually came from inside her own house.
Oh, man, yeah, from her husband, Eric.
Right.
When Lori's daughter, Kaylee, was 5 years old and approaching kindergarten age, Lori brought up the idea of homeschooling, and Eric gave a firm, immediate no.
A flat-out kindergarten no.
Exactly. And his reasoning is exactly what we've been talking about. He said he wanted Kaylee to be well-rounded, and this is a direct quote from his reasoning in the text. He didn't want her to grow up weird.
Yeah, because Eric's mental picture of homeschooling was rooted entirely in his own past experiences. The homeschooled kids he knew growing up were, at least in his view, isolated and socially awkward.
Right.
So out of a genuine desire to protect his daughter and ensure she grew up normal, he just shut the idea down entirely. And Lori felt dismissed, but she didn't fight the decision. She just enrolled Kaylee in traditional kindergarten.
But wait, I have to push back here for a second. Isn't Eric's worry completely justified?
How do you mean?
Well, that weird homeschooler stereotype didn't just magically appear out of nowhere. I mean, we've all seen pop culture depictions of the overly sheltered, awkward kid who doesn't know how to talk to people or understand basic social cues.
Sure.
So if the stereotype exists, doesn't it have to be grounded in some sort of historical reality?
Yeah, and the source material honors that perspective completely. The curriculum explicitly states that Eric is not the villain here.
Right, he's just being a dad.
Exactly. His fear doesn't come from bad intentions. It comes from an outdated picture of homeschooling that was built decades ago. It's a picture that society simply never updated.
That makes sense.
Because decades ago, homeschooling was a very different, much more isolated landscape.
Yeah, I mean, it was statistically much rarer, resources were scarce, and community networks were significantly harder to build. You didn't have the internet connecting massive local co-ops or organizing daily extracurriculars like you do now.
Precisely. The reality on the ground evolved massively over the last 30 years, even if the cultural stereotype just remained frozen in time.
Frozen in the 80s or 90s, yeah.
Right. And Lori's story perfectly illustrates this disconnect. So fast forward to the year 2020. The family actually ends up pulling Kaylee out of traditional school.
A lot of people did in 2020.
Exactly. And after just 1 year of intentional homeschooling, by the end of third grade, the academic results are staggering. Kaylee is reading at a 7th grade level.
Which is amazing. But the text emphasizes that the academics weren't even the biggest win here.
Right.
The crucial detail is her social development. The text notes that she became more comfortable with adults, with younger kids, with people of all ages, than most kids her exact age.
And what did Eric say about that?
Well, Eric, the one who initially issued the kindergarten etos, is now the very first to admit he was entirely wrong.
I love that.
Yeah, his fears simply didn't materialize because the modern reality of homeschooling just didn't match his outdated mental model.
And this shift in Eric's mindset introduces the core thesis of the entire module. The curriculum attempts a massive paradigm shift by completely redefining the concept of what socialization actually is.
It's a total reframe.
It is. It asks a fundamental question. What do we actually mean when we say a child is socialized?
Because the course argues that our societal definition has become warped by the structure of traditional schooling itself.
Yeah.
It states very directly that putting 28 kids of the exact same age in a room, managed by one single adult, for 6 hours a day is not how social skills develop.
No, it's not.
That is how compliance develops.
That's a huge distinction. We routinely conflate compliance. Sitting still, raising your hand, moving only when the bell rings, with actual social competence.
Exactly.
And age segregation is an entirely artificial construct. It was created by the school system for logistical efficiency during the Industrial Revolution.
It's basically a factory model.
Right. It does not exist anywhere else in human society.
Just think about your own adult life.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this on your commute or at work, look at the people you interact with daily.
Yeah.
How many of them were born in the exact same 12-month window as you?
Almost done.
Exactly, almost none. If you spend 12 formative years only interacting with people at your exact developmental stage, you are missing out on the vast spectrum of human interaction.
And the curriculum defines real social competence as multi-age, multi-context interactions. True self-sufficient adults need to know how to navigate a complex social web.
Yeah.
It's knowing how to speak respectfully to someone 30 years older than you, or how to patiently lead a younger child through a difficult task.
It's like, okay, school socialization sounds to me like training for a marathon entirely on a treadmill.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Like you're doing the basic motion, your legs are moving. It mimics a fundamental requirement of running.
Sure.
But the moment you step outside into real-world terrain, with uneven ground, a headwind, dodging cyclists, stepping off curbs, you realize you don't actually know how to navigate the environment. You only know how to run on a flat, artificially predictable surface.
Exactly. A treadmill gives you supervised, predictable repetitions. And in an age-segregated classroom, conflict resolution is often arbitrated immediately by a teacher.
Right, the authority figure steps in.
The environment is highly controlled. But in the real world, you have to learn how to interact with people from different backgrounds who might not share your views, without a mediator always stepping in to dictate the outcome.
My absolute favorite example from the text highlights exactly this. It says real socialization is knowing how to hold a real conversation with an adult who doesn't have to be nice to you.
That is so true. The course does acknowledge that traditional schools provide moments of socialization, like lunch, recess, and the hallways between classes.
Yeah.
But it points out that these moments are highly supervised, tightly time-limited, and almost entirely age-matched.
Right.
It's an environment designed to manage behavior on a mass scale, not necessarily to foster deep, varied relationships or independent conflict resolution.
I mean, if you think back to your own middle school or high school experience, the socialization was often just about survival in a highly specific hierarchy.
Oh, absolutely.
It wasn't about learning how to thrive in the broader, diverse world of adults.
And this philosophical redefinition is powerful, but knowing this internally doesn't magically stop your mother-in-law from asking the question at Thanksgiving,
Oh, definitely not.
So the course equips parents with practical armor by providing empirical data to back up this paradigm shift. It moves from theory to measurable facts.
Yeah, and when you actually look at the data and the texts cite specific peer-reviewed studies here, the stereotype completely falls apart.
It really does. The script explicitly references research from Valiente et al. In 2022, a 2020 study by Kunzman and Gaither, and an analysis of the National Survey of Children's Health from 2007 by Montes.
Okay, and what's the consensus there?
The consensus from all these verified sources is incredibly clear. Homeschooled students are socially comparable to their traditionally schooled peers, and in several metrics they actually show distinct advantages.
Which is wild to think about given the stereotype. And the curriculum breaks down how these researchers actually measure social competence. They aren't just asking if a kid, has friends.
Right, it's not a popularity contest.
No, they're looking at measurable behaviors. Things like civic engagement, rates of volunteerism, empathy metrics, and the ability to communicate across demographics.
Exactly.
They examine how a student actually performs when placed in a mixed age group to solve a problem.
And the methodology behind these studies reveals the mechanism at play here, because homeschooled children spend more time navigating real-world environments like running errands, volunteering, participating in community organizations alongside adults. They develop a higher capacity for mature communication.
They're off the treadmill.
Exactly. The debate is often framed as peer time versus no peer time, but that is a totally false dichotomy.
Yeah, the real question is about what kinds of social experiences are being intentionally built. Homeschooling provides the flexibility to build social exposure across multiple ages and real-life contexts, rather than just leaving it to a 20-minute age-segregated lunch period.
And the data simply does not support the fear that homeschooled kids are at a social disadvantage. But, in the heat of the moment, when someone corners you at the grocery store and asks, "But what about socialization?"
Right, you freeze.
Yeah, you usually don't have time to pull out a detailed breakdown of a 2022 peer-reviewed methodology.
No, definitely not. But the curriculum does something incredibly practical here. It gives the parents a word-for-word response to memorize.
Yes.
And I'm actually going to read the exact script they give the parents because it is masterfully crafted. Here's how it goes.
Honestly, that was my biggest concern too. What changed my mind was learning that social competence isn't built by being around kids your exact age. It's built through real interaction across ages and contexts. Our kids are in co-ops, sports, community activities. They're genuinely comfortable talking to adults and younger kids in ways that surprised me. The research on homeschool kids and social development actually surprised me too. They score at or above their school peers. What we found is that homeschooling creates more social variety, not less. It's so good. As someone who analyzes communication strategies, the psychology of that scripted response is just brilliant. It functions as a conversational judo move.
A judo move. Because, instead of meeting their anxiety with defensive force, you're stepping to the side and redirecting their own momentum.
Exactly. You aren't meeting force with opposing force. Just look at the opening line of the script. Honestly, that was my biggest concern too.
Yeah.
It immediately disarms the other person by validating their fear. It basically says, you aren't crazy or stupid for asking this. I was right there with you.
Which is so important because if you get defensive or arrogant, the other person immediately stops listening and just digs into their position.
Right. By validating their concern, you align yourself with them. Then, seamlessly, you pivot. You use the phrase, what changed my mind was, and introduce the factual foundation.
I see.
You bring in the concept of multi-age interaction and the empirical research without sounding like you're giving an academic lecture.
You're simply taking them on the same journey of discovery that you went on.
Yes. It takes all the heat out of the interaction. It allows the parent to answer with total confidence without needing to, win a debate. They are clearly stating what they know to be true based on both personal observation and objective data.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Mm-hmm.
We've unpacked the fear, the origins of the stereotype, the paradigm shift about age segregation, and the conversational judo.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. And as the course wraps up this module, it offers a summary of the ultimate transformation a parent can expect.
And it is notably honest about what doesn't change.
Right.
The course tells parents point blank, you are still going to get this question. Your neighbors, your extended family, they're still going to ask it for years to come.
Because their belief systems haven't been updated yet. They're still operating on the kindergarten software, picturing the isolated kid from 1985.
Exactly.
You don't get to stop hearing the question just because you possess the answer.
But what does change is the internal reality of the parent. The curriculum says, and I quote, you stop flinching.
You stop flinching.
Wow.
You stop monitoring your child at the park through someone else's anxious eyes.
Yeah.
You stop carrying the question around like a heavy piece of evidence against yourself because you finally understand that the question is built on a totally false premise.
The ultimate goal, as the text puts it, was never to raise a child who is merely surrounded by peers. The goal is to raise a child who knows how to be in the world.
Right.
A self-sufficient adult who can walk into a room, engage with anyone, and navigate the complexities of real human interaction.
And that brings us full circle. Remember that socially capable chameleon we talked about at the very beginning?
Oh, yeah.
The person who can effortlessly talk to the 80-year-old and the 5-year-old. The curriculum argues that that is the true outcome of breaking out of the artificial age-segregated bubble. It's about removing the treadmill and letting them run in the real world.
It is a really compelling argument that challenges a lot of deeply ingrained societal norms. It forces us to ask whether our standard systems of socialization are actually optimizing for human connection or just optimizing for, administrative convenience.
And I want to leave you, the listener, with one final provocative thought to mull over today. We've spent this entire deep dive talking about children and how forcing them into strict, age-segregated environments might artificially limit the development of their robust social skills.
A treadmill, as you called it.
Exactly, the treadmill. But let's look in the mirror for a second. Think about our adult lives. Think about how often we voluntarily self-select into our own generational echo chambers.
Oh, wow.
Right. We socialize almost exclusively with our immediate peers at work. We curate our online feeds to only hear voices from our exact demographic. We sort ourselves by life stage constantly.
We really do.
So if age segregation limits the social robustness of a child, how is our voluntary age segregation as adults quietly stunting our own continuous social growth.
Are we keeping ourselves on the treadmill?
Something to think about next time you walk into a crowded room. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.